Day 20 of Advent of Cyber. So we've got a DevSecOps challenge today. So we've got Advent of Frostlings is the title. One of the main reasons that the Best Festival company acquired Antarcticrafts was their excellent automation for building, wrapping, and crafting. Their new automation pipeline make it easier and faster, scalable, and an effective process. However, someone has tampered with their source control system, and something weird is happening. It's suspected that McGreedy has impersonated some accounts and teamed up with a rogue Frostling. Who knows what will happen if a malicious user gains access to the pipeline? In this task, you'll explore the concept of a poison pipeline execution in a GitLab CI/CD environment and learn how to protect against it. You'll be tasked with identifying and mitigating the potential PPE attack. GitLab instance for Antarcticraft CI/CD automates everything from sending signals and processing the Best Festival company's services to building and updating their software. However, someone has tampered with the configuration file, and the logs show unusual behaviour. Some suspect that Frostlings have bypassed and gained access to our build process. Today's task, we're going to learn about the poison pipeline execution. We're going to understand how to secure a CI/CD pipeline. We're going to get an introduction into secure software development lifecycles and DevSecOps, and then we're going to learn about CI/CD best practice. So GitLab is a platform that enables collaboration and automation through the software development lifecycle, which is the framework structure that describes the stages that code goes through, from its design and development to deployment. GitLab is built around Git, a distributed version control system, VCS, where the code itself is managed. Here are some key components of GitLab. So A is the version control system, so it's got that baked in. The VCS is the environment where we manage and track changes made to the codebase, which then makes it easier to collaborate with other people and maintain the history and versioning of that project. It's got the CI/CD pipeline, so this automates the build, test, and deployment phases. It says processes, but those are the main phases of the SDLC. Pipeline ensures that the code is consistently integrated, tested, and delivered to the specified environment, either production or staging, UAT, whatever, where you're deploying it. The security scanning. So GitLab has a few scanning features, and we can incorporate static application security testing, or SAST, and dynamic application security testing, DAST. So it also does container scanning and dependency scanning. So static application testing will test the actual source code itself. Dynamic scanning will test the running application. Container scanning is the Docker container, like the artifacts that you're generating. And then dependency scanning, it'll be like third-party software libraries that you're pulling in rather than coding things yourself. So all these tools then help identify and mitigate security threats in the code and infrastructure. So we mentioned CI/CD earlier. The context of pipelines, CI/CD stands for continuous integration and continuous delivery. The continuous integration part refers to integrating code changes from multiple collaborators and then into one shared repository where all the code is stored. You can think of it kind of like a folder structure. And in GitLab, CI allows the developers and engineers to commit their code frequently. The commit itself, so the actual act of committing that code, triggers an automation, and then that leads to the building and the tests. And then this is what the CI/CD the CI is all about. So we ensure that the code changes and the updates are continuously validated, which will then reduce the likelihood of vulnerabilities when introducing security scans and tests as part of that validation process. So if you imagine a developer wants a new feature added, they commit it. There'll be some tests that run to test that the code is of a significant quality, and then once it's done all those tests, it will then go into a security scan, and then the output of that scan will say if they find various application findings or not. And if it finds things, then you can break the build, and then that'll force them to not be able to deploy anything. They have to go and fix it before they can do that. So that's what CI does. And then CD, this will automate the deployment. So it will if you've got a container, it will containerize it and then put those containers out in various environments. During the SDLC, it will travel to different environments like sandbox and staging. Sandbox might be like a developer environment. Staging might be a UAT, like a user testing environment. And then it performs tests and validations by users usually. Or additional, like you might have some kind of like automated headless browser that clicks things and makes sure they work. So you run those things, and then that goes into a production environment following all that testing. So that then leaves you with a production environment, which will be the final version of the app where the service lives, having passed all those previous tests. And then that is what we as users tend to see. So the CD pipeline ensures that the code being deployed is as secure as possible. And every time it gets committed, you get a new build. It's then being put through that same deployment process. It's consistent. And that's part of DevSecOps. So integrating security checks before the deployment is key when deploying to prod. So DevSecOps, we have mentioned the integrating security into CI/CD ensures consistency and threat reduction when integrating it into the SDLC. This is what DevSecOps aims to achieve. Everything that we've seen so far is part of the cultural and technical approach that aims to improve collaboration, automation, and CI/CD. It's what we call developer operations, or DevOps, and then DevSecOps was born from DevOps, but an extension specializing in the security of the DevOps practices. So the PPE attack that we mentioned. So in today's advent of cyber, we're going to learn about the poison pipeline execution. This type of attack involves compromising a component or stage within the SDLC. And for this attack to work, it takes advantage of the trust boundary established within the supply chain. So this is extremely common in CI/CD and where automation is everywhere. When the attacker has access to version control systems and can manipulate the build process, this is really bad if they can actually write code, or they can manipulate the building. They can inject malicious code into the pipeline, and they don't need to access the build environment to do it. So this is where the poison pipeline comes into play. It's crucial to have effective secure gates and guardrails that prevent malicious code from getting far if there is an account compromise. So in the scenario, 'tis the season of giving, but the Frostlings have invaded Antarcticraft's GitLab pipeline. They found a way to poison the pipeline, orchestrating the advent calendar build process for the holiday season. Your mission as a DevSecOps engineer is to uncover and mitigate the attack to ensure that the calendar doesn't suffer from malicious alterations. We need the VM, which I've started already. I'm using my Kali box, so I don't need the attack box. You may access the attack box on the VPN. As a free user, you can access it going to this address. Log into GitLab, I've already got it open, and then we can use the creds. So DevSecOps, password TryHackMe, exclamation mark. And we're in. So after logging in, you'll see a warning that specifies you can add an SSH key, but we can ignore this as we'll be using the free web editor. If you have used Git or GitLab before and you prefer to interact with GitLab programmatically, feel free to add the key. Upon login, you should see the AOC DevOps Advent Calendar BFC, which we do. Go into it. And there's the SSH key. We can't pull or push repositories using SSH. You need to add an SSH key. So if we look at the project, there is a workflow for the Advent Calendar for the Best Festival Company built by Antarcticrafts. If we check the repository, we'll see that it uses Apache to host an index.html file. So if we go to the config file written in GitLab CI YML, this is written in YAML. The format is the format that GitLab CI/CD uses. It defines a series of jobs and stages that will then be executed automatically whenever code changes and is pushed into the repository. Let's break down what it does. So the workflow rule, this section, this describes the CI/CD workflow for the value assigned on the commit branch. Install dependencies. This is the pipeline if it is triggered on any branch, it installs the dependencies if there are any, and in this case it echoes a message indicating the installation step. So this doesn't actually do anything other than put something on the screen, but you would have, say, if it was a Python program, this would pull in like all the pip libraries that you're pulling in or whatever. So yeah, the before script. So this checks for an existing Docker container with a specified name. It stops and removes it if it's found. And then this way, whenever a new job runs, there won't be a clash with any previously created container. Then test. So this executes the test. Let me scroll down a bit. So the test stage of the pipeline, it will run the Docker container named Affectionate Sahar based on the latest image. And then 3, it will bind the volume of the local directory to the container's web service directory and maps a port 9080 on the host to port 80 of the container. But it's not, it's 9081, so that's wrong. So that needs an update. So yeah, so there's that. And then artifacts, so we specify the content of the public directory. So this is where, when we create the Docker, where we put it. So that's where it gets dumped. And then the rules is the test phase. We're saying only run it if it gets triggered on the main branch. So that defines the branch that this happens on. Right, so Detective Frostio has received a report for the Advent Calendar site. He's been stuck in a testing phase for a few weeks. However, the team is acting strangely and the site has been acting up. As a DevSecOps engineer, you must help direct Detective Frostio understand what's happening. We can start by checking if there were any merge requests or attempts. The merge requests appear when someone has a new code or an updated project version and they want to update the code base to any new changes. In other words, they want to merge their change. So if we look at the merge request, click on merge requests, which is this one. And then that's in the left hand menu. Changes can be seen in the merged tab. So if you see that, open none, merged 1, close 0, all 1. So click on merged. This is the merged file. There's some commentary as to like what was going in. So there is some activity made for testing. It looks like Frostlino opened a merge request with some code updates explaining that it is for testing purposes. DELF lead approved and merged the changes. There is no code review done and it was merged directly. So Frostlino, hey team, I'm doing some tests here. Won't be running the rule as it says when run the branches not main. Don't mind me. And so should we see what he did? So he put in a picture. So there's a defacement. Compare it with the previous version. So we want prior one. So these are what they changed. So what did he do to the GitLab? Commit branch does not equal main. So the test was done. DELF given we are a week late, we should release this. Happy to finish the testing quickly and create a deployment to production for everyone to see our calendar. Tests were done. I'll approve for us. It all looks frosty. Can you up my permission? That way I can merge it myself and move quickly. If we ship fast, we'll jingle all the way. Sorry, I've been back-to-back meetings. Oh wow, thank you. Yeah, sure. So an element of social engineering there for the person who's supposed to be reviewing it. And then Frostlino was given permission by the look of it and he approved the merge. So not only did he create the change, he's also able to approve it, which is someone else should be reviewing his changes. And then there's mention in a commit. And that's the change. There's the change that you added. So yeah. Right, so let's go back up to the original requests. Merge requests. Right, so yeah, what's going on? If we check out the job logs, this will show the workflows that were triggered and the jobs that are running or have run for the job screen. So click on CI/CD, which is the little rocket, jobs. Check the jobs that have been executed, and at the first glance, the testing jobs have been running, like test, install dependencies. So they have been running just like the detective said. However, the teams have complained that production site has been acting up. The testing environment shouldn't be affecting the website in a production environment. In the rules section of GitLab CI, the branch shouldn't trigger a job if the branch isn't on main. But we know it's not because Frostlings made a change to that. So the branches are the ways to track the changes and the work. They are copies of the repository where the developers and engineers work on the changes. When they are ready, they merge the branch, and in other words, they add their code to the main branch, which is the version that the workflow uses to build the site. Checking the calendar site, if we look at the calendar site, navigate to the machine's IP with the port that we saw. Let me copy that, and then we want 9081. There we go. So there's the defacement. So we know that it is definitely knackered. And then the detective was right. If we check the pipeline log, navigate to pipeline section of the CI/CD drop down on the left hand side, and you should see a view like this. So this is what we had. So instead of jobs, we need pipelines. And it looks strange, so I've got it on a smaller screen than them. But here we go. So we've got the status pipeline. This section will show all of the pipelines that have been triggered as group, and the pipelines are groups of jobs. So they run based on the config CI YML. Declarations that we looked at before, as before declaring the job to be run. If you select any of the pipelines and click on the past box, this will take you to the individual pipeline view. So if I click on past, this will show us the pipeline. So it ran install dependencies, and then it ran test. And then we can drill into the jobs as well. So it should look like this. We can see that all the tests passed, so it was obviously good to go, right? If we click on the test job, so we can drill into the test. Be wary that the arrow button, so the spinny arrow, will rerun the job. Nothing bad will happen, but feel free to try. After clicking test, it should then take you to the build log, which we're in now. Then you can see who triggered the job and what it was attempting to run. If you investigate the log, you'll see that there's been a lot of testing activity. This type of behavior isn't expected. At first glance, we can see the command's behavior unrelated to the advent calendar built for the Best Festival Company. An incident and an investigation should be opened. So the incident, as discussed in the previous section, the new code changes have been implemented. Based on the discussion in the merge request, some jobs have been approved without review and merged by Frostlings. He seems to have many privileges because he was given them. And are they exploiting their power? Well, it's up to Frostio to decide. For now, if we focus on mitigation, we can see the malicious code has been added as part of the test. The rules that have been changed in the command in test are the ones that go into production. It looks highly suspicious. If we break down what's happening, we can see various commands being executed, including the following. So, if we have a look at the log. So here, someone's running Who Am I, line 20. This will print the username of the current user executing the script. We've got pwd, so we're printing the current working directory. And then we've got list contents, so that's listing the content of the pwd. And then listing the content of the public folder there. And then it echoes out some HTML to create the day 20 defaced calendar. Okay, so there's the image of the home page, and then finally the Docker. So Docker run container name, and then the Apache service and the ports are open. So we can see there that it gets mapped to port 9081 on the host, and the public directory is mounted on the Apache htdocs. In conclusion, the test step performs various tasks to deface the calendar, and it looks like Frostlings has joined Tracy McGreedy's scheme to damage the Best Festival company's reputation by defacing the calendar. We should be able to see from the commit history, like in the image below, find the commit with the original code, which Delph lead should have added. After clicking the commit, you can select the view file button on the top right of the corner. So we want commits. So this is the commits. We've got the latest one from Frostlings, and this they changed the port number from 80 to 81. Then they changed the calendar to the deface calendar image. What's the next one? Ready for staging. So they added in the HUORMI, PWD, so they've got all that information. And then go up one. What else did they do? They added a pipeline. They remove the not main, and then it will change on whatever branch gets added to it. And then we've got checking if the calendar is ready. There's the image that they wanted. They committed that was that again. And then they moved the file, so they changed it from a YAML to a YML. Well, that was DevLead, so DevLead did that. So DevLead just renamed the YAML. He updated the README, so that's just like a description about what the project does. And then there's the original code, so that's what they're showing there. So it should be this commit. Now if we go back to the repository, click on the configuration file, and then click on the edit button. So we need to go, let's copy this. This is like known good. So go back to the repo, files, click on GitLab. Can we edit it here? Yeah, so paste all that in. We'll basically replacing all the content with their changes. You wouldn't do it this way, you'd revert their change, but this is creating a new commit with an update of what that is, and we commit the change. So that should resolve it once that pipeline runs. And then to remediate these types of attacks, we can do several things. So we can prevent unauthorized repository changes. So we'll enforce the protected branches. So if we go to settings, repository, protected branch, and we want, there we go. So we want who is allowed to push. It should be whoever is going to review the change should be allowed to push. In this case, we'll make it no one, because the person who didn't do the code review is getting revoked as well. And then finally, so we've got we can do tags as well. We could like put a tag in that will prevent things from happening. But they're suggesting you look at artifact management. So configure the artifact expiration settings and limit the retention of the artifacts. So the artifact is the result of the build phases, like what are the actual things that are being created. And if an attempt like this happens again, the change in the files created will not be saved, and then there's no risk of the web server running any of the artifacts. The pipeline visualization, so we can use the pipeline visualization to monitor and understand the pipeline activity, similar to how we carried out the investigation, and you can access the pipeline visualization from the pipeline view in GitLab. Static analysis and linters. The DevSecOps team can implement static code analysis and linting tools in the pipeline. GitLab has a built-in SAS that you can use, so this would look at the change that they made. It wouldn't really matter when it comes to the image defacement, but if you'd entered in malware into this process, that SAS scan would potentially find it. It might flag up like the the who am I commands and stuff being added randomly. And then linting will make sure that all the code that gets added conforms to the type of style that people are writing the code. So it makes sure that you're using spaces or tabs, or how you want all the if statements to look like. Any of the code has to fit the format of the linter. Right, and then access control. So we can ensure that access control is configured correctly. We'll limit access to the repository in the pipeline. Only the admin can do this. But there is something that the Antarcticrafts team should do. They need to kick Frostlino out of the project. So, doubt we can do this, but the admin can probably do it. So, you'd have the user account, and then Frostlino's definitely getting removed. Then regularly security audit. So we can review that YML file, and we'll check it regularly for any changes. And in that way, that will add an additional layer of defense there to check that isn't being changed, or at least add more robust controls around its being changed. And then we can prevent projects like the Advent calendar from being tampered with ever again. The pipeline changes, so we'll only include the necessary stages in the pipeline. We'll remove unnecessary stages to reduce the attack surface. So we don't allow the pipeline to have multiple steps added to it if they're not adding any value. And then you'll see the tests running unnecessary commands or stages will flag it up. So then that gets looked at by the incident response team. So we've gathered the remediation steps, and then we've passed on and communicated the Best Festival Company security squad. Well done, team. We've restored the Advent calendar, and now we can continue with celebrations for the holiday. So I don't know if the pipeline's run, but we should have our... Let's have a look. Go back. No. There we go, we fixed it. So it has created a new Docker that's running correctly. Right, so let me reopen these. So we've got two Dockers running at the moment, one with port 88 and then one with 81. So what was the handle that the developer responsible for the merge changed? So it was Frostlino, but if we check, where was it? Commits. Frostlino, you can see from his profile it's DevSecOps. So grab that. What was the port defaced? What port is the defaced calendar running on? That was 9081. What server is the malicious server running? It's Apache. We had that from the log, so let me go in here. You want pipeline. Set passed. Job. No, that's not the one. Right, go up. That one. These are the statuses of the jobs. I don't think this is what I want. Oh, there we go. Right, yeah. Container name. It's being put in an Apache directory, so we know it's Apache 2. What was the message that the Frostlings left behind on the defaced site? That was Frostlings rule. Which commit ID had the original code of the calendar site? So let's go back into commits. And it was this one by Delphlead. So there's the proper code we want. This commit. So we'll paste that in. If we enjoyed today's room, please check out the source code security room. I like the alien egg. This one is subscriber only. So again, if you want to play with that room, you have to subscribe. So this will be in addition to the freebies offered in Advent of Cyber. Detective Frostio believes that the account takeover. It was an account takeover based on activity. However, Tracy may have left some crumbs. So maybe there is some additional information here left by Tracy somewhere. But yeah, we might be here sometime trying to dig that out. It certainly wasn't anywhere obvious, like in the commit logs or the merge request. So these were both by Frostlino. Elfino, he's the DevSecOps. Yeah, so strange. There might be something here. Maybe if we check out Frostlino, are they being followed by anyone? No. Okay, so maybe something here. Might be groups or something. They joined the group, they created new branches. Who's in here? Who's the developers? Delphlead, Frostlead, DevSecOps, Delph, admin root, maintain. Oh, so we're Elfino. So we're the DevSecOps. That's us. Oh, you can't see my head some way. Move this way. So we're the Elfino user. You can see it there. But yeah, I can't see any links to Tracy. So maybe that's a hint to tomorrow's room. But yeah, that's the answers. So we can terminate the box again.